The Relentless uncloaked exactly where the exit vector met the relay station, its hull cutting through the darkness like a jagged blade of frozen steel. Fleet Commander Sareth stared at his tactical console, his nictitating membranes flickering in rapid, chaotic pulses. His breath hitched in his throat as the realization dawned on him. The empty space on his sensors was now occupied by a city-sized wall of gray carbon fiber. There was no maneuvering. There was no hail. The human ship sat motionless, its batteries powered but silent, acting as a physical gate in the only path back to the Dravathi Empire. Sareth felt the weight of his own hubris pressing down on him, heavier than the gravity of the nearby star. I wish I could say it ended in fire. I wish I could tell you about the glory of war, the desperate last stands, and the brilliant tactical explosions that define history. But that wasn't the human way. You need to see what happened when humanity treated an invasion like a tedious, high-stakes tax audit, clinical, precise, and entirely devoid of mercy. The cycle had begun 19 days earlier, when the USCS Relentless first drifted into the Valen corridor. Admiral Rael Voss didn't watch the stars. He watched the gravitational drift of the debris field. The Relentless had powered down, its state-of-the-art stealth suppression field pulling ambient background noise into a tight, impossible loop around the ship's hull. To any Dravathi sensor sweep, the massive carrier was nothing more than a dense, natural cluster of drifting rock and ice. Voss sat in his command chair, sipping plain, room-temperature water. His eyes were fixed on the passive array, his posture relaxed, as if he were waiting for a morning commute rather than the arrival of an armada. The Empire had issued its withdrawal ultimatum on Day 4, ordering all human outposts to abandon the corridor under penalty of total annihilation. They believed the humans were paralyzed by terror. They believed the sector was empty because they saw nothing but the cold, silent rocks Voss wanted them to see. The notice was not compliance, Voss said to his bridge crew, his voice barely rising above the rhythmic hum of the air recyclers. It was preparation time. Every moment they spent shouting at us was a moment they spent revealing their own rhythms. For 18 days, the Empire ships patrolled in arrogant, wide-arc formations. They wanted to be seen. They wanted the fear of their arrival to sink into the marrow of human bones. They treated the corridor as a parade ground, never once questioning why the human outposts stayed silent. Voss watched them, mapping the timing of their engine cycles, the precise gaps in their sensor coverage, and the predictable surge in their reactor output during shifts. He wasn't tracking ships, he was tracking the rhythm of their incompetence. He saw the pride in their formation and recognized it as a target. On the 19th day, the reinforcement fleet arrived. 8 heavy warships surged into the corridor, forming a brutal anchor-like formation around the relay station. It was a loud, proud display of dominance. The Empire ships broadcast their power, their long-range scanners sweeping the corridor with arrogant, sweeping ease. They were looking for heat, for movement, for a heartbeat in the dark. "Deploy," Voss whispered. The word didn't carry the weight of an executioner. It carried the weight of a clerk stamping a finalized form. Across the debris field, 24 magnetic pulse drones drifted out of their hidden pockets among the frozen asteroids. They didn't pulse until they were already beneath the hull plating of the lead cruisers, nestled against the cold metal like parasites. The silence hit the fleet first. One moment, the bridge of the flagship was filled with the frantic chirping of status reports and the comforting hum of energy shields. The next, every light went dead. The communications array vanished into absolute static. The shields flickered and collapsed like a dying flame. The drones had not just cut the power, they had severed the fleet from its own nervous system. They had tracked the movement, they braced for the fire, they found only darkness. The Empire fleet drifted, blind and screaming into their dead communications channels. Voss moved. The Relentless flared to life, its stealth suppression field dropping as 72 human fighters swarmed from the hangars like stinging insects. They didn't target the Empire's armor or their weapon emplacements. They targeted the cooling ports, the sensor stalks, and the reactor vents, the tiny, unprotected spots that the Dravithy tactical manuals considered too insignificant to shield. The fleet didn't explode in a grand, cinematic display of heroism. It was dismantled. Cruiser after cruiser lost its ability to maneuver as the human fighters tore through their point defense arrays with agonizingly surgical precision. Commander Sarath watched as his warships were turned into hulks of drifting scrap, unable to aim, unable to warn each other, and utterly unable to understand what was killing them. The humans were not reacting to his decisions. They were ready for them before he even formulated them. It was as if the humans had read the script of the battle before the actors had even stepped onto the stage. The Relentless emerged fully from its camouflage, drifting into the exit lane with an eerie, predatory grace. It was a massive, silent judge, turning its heavy battery arrays toward the relay station. It did not fire a shot. It simply sat there, a wall of steel that made escape impossible, closing the cage the Dravithy had so arrogantly walked into. Sarath looked at his dead console, his 6 limbs trembling against the deck plating. The humans hadn't been hiding in fear. They had been waiting in patience. They had allowed the Empire to commit its forces, to reveal its weaknesses, and to overextend its reach. The withdrawal order wasn't a choice for the humans. It was a desperate, mocking necessity for the Dravithy to stop the methodical slaughter. "Signal them," Sarath choked out, his voice cracking against the chitin of his own throat. "Withdraw, now, before there is nothing left of us to go home." The Empire ships limped toward the exit, passing beneath the shadow of the asterisk Relentless. The human carrier remained cold, its massive weapons powered down, its hull reflecting only the dim, uncaring light of the distant relay station. It didn't pursue. It didn't taunt with transmissions. It just watched them leave, like an accountant watching a debtor crawl away from a bankrupt business. Voss signaled for the stealth field to re-engage. As the Empire ships fled the corridor, broken and shamed, the Relentless began to fade. The external heat signatures of the ship were dampened and bled out into the surrounding asteroid mass, a masterful mimicry of the cold universe. The carrier drifted back into the dense, chaotic debris field. A faint, regular heat signature dispersed across the armored hull, cooling rapidly until it matched the ambient temperature of the surrounding rock. It blended perfectly into the cold, jagged mass of the Valen corridor. The carrier was in the debris field, and it had been watching all of it. The corridor was silent again, save for the slow, rhythmic tumbling of dead metal through the dark. The tax audit was complete, the books were balanced, and the humans were gone once more, back to the shadows, waiting for the next error in judgment.